TV, Aurelia.
Hi everyone and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm your host Yvonne Heath, author of the book Love Your Life to Death and founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So joining me today is the lovely Liz Wescott. Hello, Liz.
Good morning.
Now I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this in a personal way. This is not personal, but I really wish that this was a conversation that we didn't have to have, that didn't exist, right? I wish that your position wasn't necessary, but that is not the reality of our world.
That is correct.
Right. So I'm very pleased that you're here, and you are the executive director of Green Haven Shelter for Women.
Correct.
And you have been working in this field for many, many, many years.
Several. Yeah.
Several years. So I would love to hear a little bit about your background, sure, and then we'll talk about Green Haven.
Sure. Yeah, I've been with Green Haven Shelter since International Women's Day, 1991. So
91, wow.
March 8, I started, so in my 28th year.
Wow.
One of the, probably the most important pieces of my life, around looking at and critically involved in women's equality movement, what that means, what the initiatives around issues to address violence against women must look like, where in fact we want to see systemic change, and just meeting some of the most magnificently strong, vibrant, incredible women that I've ever had the privilege of being a part of their lives, even for a short moment,
right,
at a critical moment. It's been incredible.
Well, that's incredible. So for 28 years, and I read you're mother of two,
yes,
married many years,
yeah,
which is wonderful, and you've worked with those who are disenfranchised and disadvantaged, and that your whole adult career.
That's correct.
So when you disenfranchise, what does that mean exactly?
Essentially feeling on the outskirts.
Okay.
Sort of on that fringe of the world. Society quite often will ignore or basically exclude them from things that would matter to their lives. They're not looked at in the same regard or given the same level of respect. Kind of the have-nots.
Have-nots. So marginalized would be a different word, okay?
Yeah.
And we have that still going on
today
in our society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And there are many different people that are feeling disenfranchised,
Certainly.
marginalized,
Certainly.
and in our communities.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I think that speaks to the inequality that women have certainly experienced and will continue to experience. And those barriers and oppressions continue to advance depending on your social location in the world as well. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life.
Wow. And so what brought you to this career? Because, you know, it's not glamorous. It's not glamorous.
That's very correct. I guess when I was working with those adults with cognitive impairments back in the 80s, and in 1989, on December 6th, I was watching the news and became aware of the horrific Montreal massacre that occurred at L'École Polytechnique in Montreal, where 14 young women were murdered by a lone gunman in the halls of the school. And that really resonated with me, being a mom of two children who were in public school, two girls who were in public school at that time, and really being thoughtful about what would the state of the world be as they grew into adulthood. A couple of years later, I saw an advertisement for a new shelter development going up in Aurelia. I was commuting at the time and was thinking, wow, that's a little closer to home. And it just sparked an interest. So I reached out and applied for an interview, and the rest, as they say, is history.
You've been there ever since?
Yeah.
Wow, extraordinary. So Green Haven Shelter, what do you do?
Sure.
Who do you serve? What part of the community?
Well, I think, again, I want to give credit to some of our founders and sort of what led us to becoming Green Haven Shelter. Certainly through the 70s and 80s, there were two social workers in particular, Barb Green and Marcia Perryman, who worked with Richmond Resource Center at the time and were serving women who were experiencing violence with very little resource, very little opportunity, very little place to go, nowhere to hide.
Yes.
And they actually purchased or rented an apartment out of their own pockets
Wow.
for about 11 months in downtown Aurelia. Australia in an effort to try and find safe space for women. And in doing so, they also chatted with other people and other members of the community, and a group formed to say, hey, what will it take to build a shelter? And so after 1989, of course, the federal government then did a countrywide consultation around violence against women in each of the provinces and territories, and found that this was really an incredibly epidemic problem across our country.
Epidemic problem.
Epidemic.
Violence against women.
And it was happening in virtually every community. So there were some dollars then made available by the federal government to look at ways in which to build safe spaces and shelters for women across the country. We made application from the city and from the city of Aurelia, and were successful in getting Project Haven dollars. And Barb Green, as one of our founding members and a solid force to be reckoned with from behind the scenes, really led that formidable charge through that period of time. So purchased property in 1990, started renovations early in 1991 when I started, and we opened in October of that year, and have been serving women and children from the city of Aurelia and surrounding townships since then. We're a short-term, smaller, emergency-based shelter, certainly finding refuge for women with or without dependent children who are 16 years of age and older and are experiencing or at risk of experiencing violence in an intimate relationship. And that's our primary function for the community, and has been and remains to be to this day.
Right. So I just want to go back, and because that word just kind of, it shakes you, epidemic. Violence against women, an epidemic. And it's not just one group, it's across all social, economical situations, everybody. It affects everyone, does it not?
Well, when you think about in 2018, last year, 148 women were murdered in Canada.
148 women were murdered in Canada.
By someone who professed to love them.
Wow.
So when you think about that, that rolls out to about one woman every 3 days being murdered in this country. That's not an epidemic, I don't know what is. And that's today, in today's world.
And it's a question, it's a big question, and there's no simple answer, but why? What is the, what causes this violence? Are these people who are abusing others? Is it addiction? Is it mental health issues? Is it no?
No, we're not going to excuse that behavior. This is about power over another individual. Power and control is the underlying root cause, and the event of women's inequality perpetuates that particular cause. Consequently, excusing it by saying someone's mentally ill, excusing it by saying someone's under the influence of alcohol, that's a personal choice they take. Consequently, they're responsible for their actions with using those choices. And I'm sorry, that's not an excuse for killing someone.
All right. So we need, obviously, this has to stop. Clearly.
We've been saying that for some time.
For a long time. But it's the prevention piece that we also have to, for women, for girls to be empowered, but also for boys. Right? Yeah. And I often see there are programs for girls. There needs to be these programs for boys as well, saying it's never, ever, ever okay.
Correct.
To hurt another human being. It is never okay. There's no excuse. If you need help, go get it. If you're having problems with anger, addiction, mental health issues, get help, because it's never okay.
I can make you angry.
Yes.
I can't make you hit me.
Right.
That's a personal choice for which we are then accountable. If we choose to use violence, we're solely responsible for that particular choice. It belongs to no one else. And those are messages and opportunities that we can build into our everyday life, recognizing and appreciating and respecting the women and girls in our lives as a contributing member of society as well, and that we have an equal place in the world. Those are messages
We're wonderful.
We are. We are. And yet
absolutely,
when we're looking for a way to embarrass someone or to shame someone, we tend to reflect it as more feminine because it's not quite good enough.
Interesting.
So we pay women athletes far less than we pay male athletes. We pay women in the workforce far less than we pay men, 75 cents. And that's for a white woman with white skin privilege in the world, it's 65 cents for an Indigenous woman. So those are things that just are unconscionably unfair.
Yeah, well, they don't even make sense.
No,
I mean,
totally
there's no rationale for that. It doesn't make sense.
But it speaks to the value we hold.
Right.
And we hold women and children with less value. And consequently, that allows that power over to continue, and that we are a little better than. And those are the messages that we really want to take into our schools. That's what
So
we want to start
important.
talking to our kids.
Well, it's so important, and the truth is, as my show is called Real Life Talks for a reason, because these are talks that we don't know this, right? Like, people think, like, what do you mean we get paid the same? I mean, I was a nurse for many years. For many years, I didn't know that women in business, or for a CEO, would get paid differently.
Yeah.
It just didn't even occur to me. And so this education is important. It has to start. It'd be wonderful to start at home and in the schools. I mean, this is where children are for 8 hours a day for years. We need this education. And tell me this, if this is part of it also, many people who are abused end up abusing. Is that one of the...
Well, we live what we learn.
Sure.
So again, our experience, what we've been exposed to, what becomes normal for us,
Yes.
is how we think the world will be.
Yes.
So when a child will sit and witness violence against their moms, that's a norm for them. And until such time as we can shift that particular view of the world, unfortunately, that's the way they'll grow up.
Sure, it's normal.
Totally.
That's right.
Totally.
And that has to stop, because I do believe that we are making strides in the right directions of support and
yeah.
help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even from the beginning where you started years and years ago. Tell me it's getting better, please.
We're certainly seeing some tremendous shifts.
Okay.
And I mean, met some phenomenal young men out there who are really leading the charge, and that's
Yes.
been so inspiring. So once again, when we have that opportunity to work together, because this is a social issue, this belongs to all of us.
It's not just for
It's
women.
not for
No,
women.
it's
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, and we need to partner with the men in our lives to ensure that we do, in fact, see that shift in those generations to come.
Well, because men speaking to boys, that's
Totally.
right. It's a powerful message to hear. No, it's never okay. It's never ever okay. And we just need. Are they talking about this in the schools?
To a point, yes.
Okay.
And we've had, over the years, we've had several opportunities to work through and provide programs. Unfortunately, it's not part of the specific curriculum around coming in and actually being a part of our work, but occasionally we can get some grants. On occasion, there's a bit of an initiative that occurs, not consistently enough, but it's
See,
there.
there's the whole issue, isn't it? Consistency. And this whole educating our young from junior kindergarten at age appropriate
Yeah.
teaching about mental health, about violence, about safety, then you have value and you matter, and it's never okay to hit someone or to be hit.
Right. So when you see the beginnings of some of the bullying programs that are now
Yes.
happening, and sort of the pink shirt movements, we're looking at ways in which to bring children into that opportunity to be respectful to each other and how to communicate. And unfortunately, it's now counterproductive with the cyberbullying that we see. We've taken that and become a bit covert in our ways and efforts to be better than someone, or to have power over another person. And we've chosen some rather vicious and horrible ways in which to do that. So we need to find ways to counter that and be mindful and ensure that we're working and talking to our kids about those kinds of messages.
Yeah, so I'll go back. So pink shirt, what is the pink shirt?
It's kind of that, it's a day that's been identified within the school boards to actually wearing a pink shirt indicates that you want to be an ally with
Okay.
someone who may be experiencing bullying.
Right.
And so it again gives kids an opportunity to visually speak out and stand out and actually be present in a movement to try and stop bullying in the schools.
So it's not only saying bullying isn't okay, I'm an ally.
Totally.
And I'm speaking out with this shirt against it, kind of like my purple shirt today.
Totally.
Against, domestic violence, because that it just should be eliminated from our vocabulary. It should just change, and it takes conversations, it takes honest conversations and education, and people knowing if you are being abused. And there's no shame in that. There's no, right?
That's correct.
There's no shame in that. And here's another elephant in the room thing. A lot of people say, well, why don't they just leave, right? Yeah. Let's talk about that.
I think when you start to consider Elena Frick, I think, would be a perfect example. When Dr. Frick was murdered a year ago in December, and that case has just cleared the courts, where her murderer was actually charged and convicted and sent to jail, and pled guilty rather than going through a trial. Mm-hmm. When we saw that, she had merely given him 2 or 3 days notice that she was seeking a divorce. So when you're prepared to leave and preparing to leave, and someone becomes aware of that, it's probably the most dangerous time in your relationship. Consequently, if you've been told, you leave me, I'll kill you. Mm-hmm. I'll kill your mom.
Yeah.
I'll kill your pet.
I'll hurt others.
I will get at, exactly. Mm-hmm. You have a choice. You can leave and possibly die, or you can stay and live. What's your choice?
Right. And I know I've heard many stories of women that are just so, you're no good, you can't survive without me, and they have a financial hold on them. And yes, and if you leave, this will happen to you, but you're worthless. No one will ever want you. Right. And that makes my heart just ache. It really does.
And you then question your own choices.
Sure.
Look where I am, and what are my chances of surviving, and what will I do without him? Because it's about the violence. It's not about the person. Right. Can care deeply for the relationship, care deeply for the person. It's the violence we want to end. Mm-hmm. Consequently, when we're told that we're not worth it, well, if that's the case, then I have no future, and better this than nothing.
Wow. Yes,
that's pretty powerful.
Those are very hard choices and sad choices. Yeah. Now, here's something that I also hadn't. If someone is a violent person, is there somewhere they can reach out to say, I am struggling with, controlling my own anger? I guess Canadian Mental Health or somewhere, because, because wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to. These people who abuse, to say, oh my gosh, this is wrong, I don't know how to stop. Right. Because if you've lived a life of abuse and that's just normal, and then I hope that there's hope for them as well, I assume.
And certainly what we find right now is quite often when an individual who's chosen to use violence has been charged, they're then required to attend partner assault response service programs, which is at this point in time a 12-week program that speaks to the use of violence and kind of gets to some of those root choices and what alternatives are available. Now, it's often only accessible through the criminal justice system. So again, those who actually want to make changes in their lives, recognizing the damage they're doing, both to themselves, to their relationship, and to potentially their kids.
Absolutely.
Wanting to make a change, reaching out to a family counseling service is a wise move.
And there is hope for change, and you can break that cycle, right?
If you are truly, truly wanting to make a change in your life, we all have that capacity.
We do, and any woman who is in a violent relationship, again, back to the stigma, there's no shame in that. I think that's also, it's embarrassing, right? People think, oh, I'm embarrassed. I created this. I did this.
And no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. And whatever the reason you're in it, there's a way out, and there are people who care. So there's also, you have a 24-hour crisis line.
That's correct.
And so when somebody calls that, they speak to somebody.
Yes, we have a crisis counselor on duty and available over the phone and in person 24 hours a day.
That's so important. And then the residential shelter. So tell me about, so Green Haven, how?
Yeah. So we're a 13-bed emergency shelter. We're tucked into a very, very tiny little building in the moment.
Yes.
And kind of not about a lot of space. We have shared accommodation throughout the building, so that's unfortunate as well, that when you come, you may have to be a roommate with a stranger.
Sure.
So it's not the most dignified place in the world, and consequently not an easy choice to make.
Right.
And people don't come because that's their first place to go,
Sure.
right? So we're kind of a last resort for those who need us. But again, for a short period of time, and we're usually working with 5 to 6 weeks at a given time around choices about what comes next. So if it's looking for alternate housing, we do offer a transitional housing support service where we can support women trying to find alternates and another way to live and somewhere else to live. We will work with you on the issues that you're experiencing, whether it be in court, be it with employment, accessing to other services. We can be supportive in those ways.
So you're
as
there
well.
for them, right? They
Whatever.
don't have to do it alone.
No. And it's about you making those choices. We want to honor the opportunities that make your life different, not about changing the way you live.
Right.
Right? This is about how you want your life to look, and we'll be there to support it. Kind of help navigate some of those systems.
Well, because it's overwhelming, and there's big grief and fear, and there's so many emotions. So you're that lifeline, and
Like
that's
to be.
so. Yes, I have no doubt you and volunteers and everyone do an amazing job.
I have a tremendous staff. I've been very blessed.
Thank goodness. So, speaking of this little crowded building, but there is something that you're working on.
We are.
So,
We are.
let's talk about that.
We are under construction. I know, it's so very exciting. We had started conversations actually probably in 2008 around how we would possibly better meet women's needs because our building is so small. We'd undergone a couple of renovations and a couple of additions, but we've outgrown our space. We've outgrown it for many, many years. And what we're realizing as well is looking at our accessibility issues. We are virtually completely inaccessible for women with any issues, any mobility issues.
Right,
So when Ontario wanted to look at 2025 as kind of the goal, where we would be an accessible province in terms of service, we would never be able to meet that particular need.
Right.
So we started talking to our community, talking to our funders, talking provincially around what would shelters look like in the future. And we were very fortunate in 2015 with the introduction of social infrastructure funding through the federal government that was flowing through the province. That was a window of opportunity for us. So we made application, and we were sort of fast-tracked through level 1, and then we had to stop because we had no property to purchase at the time and had nowhere to build it.
Okay.
So I had one window of opportunity in a very, very short period of time to try and move things through, and we were successful in getting onto the list in the last year of funding, bought property, and have been moving at lightning speed since.
Wow.
With a goal that hopefully by the end of 2019 we'll have a new facility.
Amazing.
That will again be able to bring all of our community-based programs, our outreach support, group support, workers, community groups,
all
meetings,
under one
all
roof.
under one roof.
How extraordinary would
That's
that
wonderful.
be? Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So what do you need to make that happen, Liz?
We're an incredibly fortunate agency in that we have a wonderful community in which to work and who have been incredibly supportive. And so we're reaching out once again to say to our community, we need your help.
Yes.
We're working toward...
Show me the money.
Well, in all honesty, I mean,
Let's just be honest, right?
there is an expectation that we will contribute toward the development of our facilities. So all of the furniture, equipment, supplies, et cetera, that go into the building, from landscaping to playground equipment to our security
Everything.
system,
Sure.
is all on us to provide. So we're looking to the communities to support us in those functions.
Absolutely, and this is such an you play such an important role to strengthen the community and create change. And so, do you have fundraising events that you have going on?
The next one that's coming up is Monday, July the 8th. At 11 o'clock in the morning, registration opens for our 21st annual
21st,
tournament.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
21 years. Yeah.
So that's incredible. So I will just say, Greenhaven Shelter, if you can donate a little bit, a lot, your time, furniture, anything, every little donation and every bit of help makes the difference. You can be a part of something wonderful. So that is my call to action to your community. And I just thought it would be wonderful to just sort of end with, I'm sure you've heard, you've been a part of many wonderful stories where people have been able to turn their lives around. Not that you have to share a specific story, but you know, I'm sure.
There have been a number of them, and I think, as an example, last year at our 20th anniversary golf tournament, a young man wrote a story, and he is an adult today in a professional capacity and has done very well for himself and is the father of 2, and he had wanted to support the tournament. So he wrote a story and talked about his stay with his mom and sister when he was 8. And the people that he remembered, the environment that he remembered, and why that was an important opportunity for him to see the world differently and to share with us how his life was changed by that experience.
That's a beautiful story.
It was very touching.
That is so touching. And here is the absolute wonderful hope that your life can change. We can never stop working towards a world without violence, where everyone, because everyone has value, everyone matters, and it's never okay to be hit or to experience violence. And thank you. I am so grateful that you have, for so many years, I could just tell you are a kind, loving soul.
Thank you.
I have no doubt you've helped more women and children and families than I could count. And I am grateful. I'm glad that you're here. I'm going to come and visit Greenhaven Shelter and support you in any way I can.
Thanks, Yvonne.
So thank you so much, Liz. Thank you. So thanks for joining us today for Real Life Talks. This is a show about learning how to just show up for yourself, just show up for others, be empowered and resilient, and sometimes have hard conversations. So if you want to be able to just show up, my call to action, as always, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thanks, bye for now.
In Touch Hearing wants to make getting a hearing aid hassle-free and easy, offering a wide range of hearing aids, assistive listening devices, batteries, custom ear molds, and much more. In Touch Hearing will do everything possible to make the investment in your hearing a simple, comfortable, and rewarding experience.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media. This is Rogers TV. Aurelia.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
Family, it's just extremely important. People move around. Connected for Success has just made it so much easier. For the longest time,